Thank you so much, Samuel. Now I'd like to introduce Josiah Friedman. He is a pro-life activist and a political science enthusiast, CEO at Voices for the Voiceless, and student at Christian University. Josiah.
So Lisa asked me for your reference before we jump in here. In the back over there, that's where Planned Parenthood is. So for those of you who haven't been here before and you don't know, Planned Parenthood is right back there. They operate surgical abortions on weekends, except this one because you're all here. Yeah. So I am here representing the students of Arizona who have come here to declare that it's time to defund Planned Parenthood. Students, how many of them are you here? Let me hear you. Where are you? Okay, we're gonna try that again. If you're a student or you're like gonna be one soon, you know, you're 5, you're working on it, let me hear you. Let me hear you. That's it. There we go. That's the spirit. We are joining a national event involving 300 plus cities all across the United States. And we are 1,000 strong, but the truth is today that we are probably 100,000 strong when it comes to all around the country today. And I think it should be made clear that the reason for our gathering is not a partisan one that would involve the government. It's not even a religious one that would involve prayer. The reason for our gathering today ought to be clarified. But first, I want to make one thing very, very clear. Many Planned Parenthood employees wake up every day and go into work genuinely believing that they are helping women. They are good people, and we are not here to protest them. And in the same way, many young women will enter clinics today, Planned Parenthood clinics, looking for help, and we're not protesting them. This is our grand opportunity all around the country to take the opportunity to love them, to give them all of their options, and to empower them to demand respect, to show them that there is help and there is support, and we are their support. And we will help them however far we need to go to do so. That's what we will do, and that is our grand commitment in this. Now, many of you know that Planned Parenthood has not actually been the the purest of organizations over the years. There's a lot of things, a lot of claims that we can bring against them. But today, we come to talk about something very specific. At stake is more than $500 million of our taxpayer money. Your money, my money. And Planned Parenthood will tell you that these funds don't support abortion services. But basic math will tell you that funds are interchangeable. The money they get from the government empowers them to cover operating costs so that they can plug the vast majority of their donor money into abortion services. We're gathering here today because over the last few weeks, it's become more clear what exactly we are funding with over $500 million of our tax dollars. Our tax dollars are funding an organization that illegally profits by selling aborted baby parts to fetal tissue procurement affiliates for research. They don't negotiate on the basis of cost, but on the basis of profit. They haggle about prices. Our tax dollars are funding an organization willing to illegally alter abortion procedures to employ, quote, less crunchy methods and techniques during abortion procedures in order to increase the odds of obtaining an intact specimen, according to them, therefore more conducive to profit. Our tax dollars are funding an organization willing to donate aborted baby parts without the consent of the patient. They're doing this with a blatant disregard for the wishes of the women that are walking into their clinics. It seems clear that Planned Parenthood executives have proven by their own testimony that they're more concerned about the money in their pockets than they are about the women in their clinics. Our tax dollars are funding an organization willing to commit borderline infanticide without apology of a scientifically distinct, living, whole human being whose only substantive difference from you or me was time. The last video, as many of you saw, that was released documents Holly O'Donnell, a former employee of STEM Express, one of their fetal tissue procurement affiliates of Planned Parenthood, who talks about how after she saw the heartbeat of a child after they were aborted, and because the heart was tapped, she was then asked to harvest a brain from that very same child. In all of this, Planned Parenthood seems more concerned about the perception that people might think they are actually selling baby parts for profit, rather than the fact that they actually are. Now, when the question of defunding Planned Parenthood comes up, Planned Parenthood resorts to claims that to do so would hurt women, especially minority women who depend on them for basic health care needs. Put simply, Planned Parenthood executives think we need them. But we're here to say 1,000 strong, and especially you students who are here with us today, that our generation doesn't need Planned Parenthood. We don't need Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood serves only 2% of American women each year, and the comprehensive care clinics outnumber Planned Parenthood abortion clinics in the country about 20 to 1. In Arizona, there's 183 facilities that provide comprehensive health care for women compared to 10 Planned Parenthood facilities. Women have real choices in Arizona and throughout the country, do they not? They have real choices, and we are here today to point them to those choices. Our generation doesn't need Planned Parenthood. It's well past time to defund it. Now, we're not here to just call for the defunding of Planned Parenthood. We're here to call for healthcare facilities that respect our young women enough to be transparent with them, enough to offer them all of their options, enough to truly to be motivated by something other than profit margins. Now, our generation needs transparent, compassionate, and accountable healthcare. We don't need Planned Parenthood, but there's a second point I want to make, and that corresponds to our generation. Young people, we live in a generation that didn't choose Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood's always been there for us, or while we've been around. And here's the issue with that. We didn't choose them. We're going to grow up, we're going to start paying taxes, and our taxes are going to them. But the truth is, they're a dated organization. They don't provide transparent, compassionate, and accountable health care to women. They don't do that. They're a dated organization. Today, we stand about a block from one of the biggest university campuses in the country. And I want to introduce you to the generation that's there. Pro-life or pro-choice, there's something that's the same about all of us and that Planned Parenthood ought to know about. You see, when it comes to questions of justice, rights, and equality, members of my generation cannot separate our intellect from our hearts. We're constantly seeking to address the injustices around us. We believe in universal human rights, and when we unanimously conclude that any group of people on earth is deserving of our compassion, they will receive it. We will become the most vocal advocates for their rights. We will rally together. Rain, shine, or 100 degrees. We will rally together as a generation in the public view until they are afforded every inch of humanity and respect that was taken from them. Put simply, we don't know a world where our tax dollars don't go to Planned Parenthood. But I'll tell you this, I'm 22, and I stand here with many of my fellow students to declare this. I don't want my tax dollars to go to Planned Parenthood. And I don't want that for all the reasons that we've mentioned so far, but also for these. Honestly, Planned Parenthood has changed what it means to be human in our generation, and it denies the basic principle of equality. Abortion, in one sense, carries along with it a damaging characteristic of randomness. No doubt someone is making a choice, but those of us who are born had no hand in the matter. Before there is anything to differentiate one member of our generation from another, at the moment when we are equal in every possible way, some of us make it and some of us don't. We are survivors, unique only in that we have survived. And the devaluation of any human being, no different than ourselves, is a devaluation of us all. Planned Parenthood contributes to a culture in our generation that refuses to respect women in the way they deserve. To be honest, Abortion supplies an easy fix for young men who want sex but none of the consequences. And instead of supporting the young women in our lives, we get what we want and leave them to fumble through the consequences on their own. Abortion makes light of fatherhood at a time in our nation where so many suffer from fatherlessness. It's true, and it's unavoidable. Now, let me be clear. This affects a lot of us because 22% of our generation was aborted. That is what Planned Parenthood has taken from us. That is what they have done. Now, before I was born, my own mom walked into a Planned Parenthood clinic. She was scared. She was pregnant, and she didn't want her parents to know. She went to Planned Parenthood, and they didn't sit her down and comfort her and give her all her options. They referred her for an abortion, no questions asked. There wasn't a lot of education going on there. There wasn't a lot of anything. And I look at it, and I didn't, growing up, I didn't know this. I thought I was the oldest of three. Turns out I'm not. I have an older brother who's no different from myself. 22% of our generation was aborted. And that makes every young person at this rally the best advocates for life, for defunding Planned Parenthood, because you can say that this has affected you. You didn't choose Planned Parenthood. We didn't choose to lose 22% of the potential in our generation. As one member on our Voices for the Voiceless team likes to say, Planned Parenthood has used this as an opportunity to highlight the scientific research that they are doing in the community because they might want to find the cure for cancer. It's an equally valid argument to say that it's very possible that what they're doing is selling the baby parts of the very person who would discover that cure. And that's serious. Students in this audience, we didn't choose Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood is a dated organization, and we don't need Planned Parenthood. It's well past time to defund it, is it not? Now, I want to summarize all this by saying this pretty simply. We are against profiting illegally and deceptively from the women of America. We believe that the members of our generation deserve transparent, compassionate, and accountable health care. And Planned Parenthood, you've made it unquestionably clear that you provide none of those things. Our healthcare facilities should respect our young women enough to be transparent with them, to show them all of their options, and not to be motivated by profit margins. My generation needs transparent, compassionate, and accountable healthcare. We don't need Planned Parenthood. Folks, 22% of our generation was aborted. We are the 78%. There are 1,000 journalists in this audience right now. And how many of you would consider yourselves, a little bit squeamish of spamming people on Facebook, with all those posts? Well, there's one exception, and that would be today. The hashtag is ProtestPP. Hashtag ProtestPP. I want you to use that, and I want you to demand this. Students, our generation needs transparent, compassionate, and accountable health care. We don't need Planned Parenthood, because 22% of our generation was aborted, taken away by this organization. We are the 78%, and we will not be silent. Thank you.